You get only one chance to make a first impression.
When you join organization, you're going to have a fussy front.
Don't be afraid to bring in disrupt into the picture, because that fresh perspective matters.
Joining deployments, and if there's any incidents going on, be part of that. It's a win-win situation.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Our Tech Chronicles. Today, we'll be discussing the first 90 days. It's an interesting topic to discuss when changing roles, a new promo, or joining a new company. The areas we cover are: why is the first 90 days important? 2, learning the landscape. 3 is building relationships and securing early wins. And we'll end with some examples from our own journey. Does that sound good?
Sounds good.
All right. So before we get started, if your first 90 days had a movie title, what would it be?
A movie title. Interesting.
Oh, God. Well, for me, at least at the beginning, the title would be Mission Impossible.
I would say the same actually. For me, it was Mission Impossible learning the office jargon.
Into the darkness.
For me, it'll be House of Cards. I know it's not a movie, but it's a show understanding the politics.
Good one. That's great. All right, let's get started. Why is the first 90 days so important?
Sure. So you said it, I think, in the question itself. You said it's first 90 days. That means it's going to expire. So, and there are many things that you want to accomplish within the first 90 days, including establishing yourself, building credibility, and then, establishing, good rapport with your stakeholders. Basically, it lays the foundation for your success in the organization.
The 90 days is very crucial because a lot of people will make first impression. Typically around 60 days is the time, but 90 days would be the upper limit. So you want to make sure you put the best foot forward, because whether we like it or not, that kind of lingers in people, the first, 90 days.
Yeah, I would definitely echo on that. Like, I would look at it from two sides, right? Basically, this is like, to you guys' point, this is like the time to make an impression, and basically like make an impression and also like take it all in. Not necessarily like the entire landscape, but that's like the time to like test the waters.
Yeah, spot on. Actually, I agree with everything you said. It's also an opportunity so that the people who hired you or promoted you feel really good about their decision, right? That you got the right guy, and they start building, roadmaps around you. So this is your chance. You only get a chance. Only get one chance to make a first impression. This is it.
Right.
All right, let's move on to learning the landscape. So now let's say you've joined, or you've newly got promoted, or you changed roles. What techniques would you use to learn what's going on?
Yeah, so I want to use kind of a analogy around like models. Like AI is very popular these days, but just like you optimize AI model, I think you want to think about how you can fine tune yourself to the new organization. So when you join a new organization, either in a new role or it could be within your organization in a new role, you are essentially presented with a new set of data, right? And those data represent a culture, new culture or a subculture, like if it is within your own organization, new ethos, new people that you have to work with, and new processes. It could be new technology, new tools, right? So just like uh, AI model, like you need to figure out like how are you going to align yourself to the organizational culture so you're better integrated. I think you need to also invest a lot of time in learning your organization so you are better able to relate what you do every day. And then other important thing is it also allows you to prioritize wisely in terms of what you want to do during those first 90 days, right? And then finally, it's about being able to adapt, right? You don't want to be doing everything, but you want to prioritize and decide like which areas you want to really invest.
Beyond the technology, beyond the knowledge that you seek, Every company has kind of unwritten rules that we need to master, right? Sometimes, like personally, I wanted to see what are the touch points I get to interact with people, how is the meetings conducted, what is their, motto when it comes to speaking up, and are they willing to accept? Because if you start off being a timid person, you'll end up being a timid person throughout the tenure. So try to understand the hidden rules in the organization.
Yeah, essentially like ways of working, right? And I think that applies to whether you join a new company and like you're kind of in that first 90-day period, or like whether you have gotten promoted within your own organization. Because just because you get promoted, it doesn't necessarily mean that you are one, like you're not going to continue to operate the same way. Like you're at a different level, like you'll have like different roles and responsibilities. And the group of people that you interact with on a day-to-day basis are not necessarily going to be the same group of people that you were before, right? Like you'll have like higher visibility, like
Yeah.
higher responsibilities, and like a different group. Like so, it's kind of like adapting to like that new environment.
Just to add to everything you all said, a friend of mine, Sydney Sheck, recently wrote a Substack article about learning a new domain. And the way he broke it down, I think is very relevant even to this, like the learning aspect of the new job, a new role, right? He broke it down into four aspects in this particular order: product, people, technology, process. So when you start with product, first understand what are these core concepts, the fundamental principles on what this product is built on, who's using it, what is the experience like, be a user of that and understand that. Then you go into a level deeper. Okay, find the right people to talk to see who built this product or who was using it, who are stakeholders, build relationships with them, right? And not everything is documented all the time, right? You will learn just from working with these people, of getting your questions answered or whatever. So the people is number two. Then you go a level deeper. If you're in technology like all of us, then you start looking at, okay, how is this built? Well, what are the relationships of all the components? How does it scale? Is it reliable? What are its choke points? What does the roadmap look like? Things like that. And maybe that's where you can start, you know picking up little things and tinker with it and make changes and start building some familiarity with the technology. And then the final thing is the process, right? And maybe that goes alongside what Shanu and Yuresh both said, like the unwritten rules, like how do they operate, what rituals do they follow, how do they prioritize stuff, things like that. So I think that could be applied here as well.
Yeah, Roshan, that reminds me of another point. Something I read in a book. They refer to it as, when you join organization, you're going to have a fussy front end, right? So what it means is that you're going to have a certain level of ambiguity, uncertainty, like even a sense of not really belonging to that organization. And I think what you propose, like in terms of the approach, is a way to kind of bring clarity to your role, right, to your job. And I want to just add one more thing. During the first 90 days, right, you have a hallway pass called new card.
Yes.
So I think you should definitely use it. Like you can always preface like as a the new person, right? Or I want to use my new card, and even ask some of the questions that might be really obvious, because after that 90 days it expires. So you want to use it wisely and make sure you get really grounded. And if you really think through those different categories that you mentioned, I think that's a really good way to approach it.
That new guy card only lasts maybe 30 days if you're promoted, right? So if you're promoted, it's a whole different game. Now, I would suggest like start setting some boundaries, because you need to allow yourself time to learn the new role. And so you need to set aside time and show some leadership and maturity that you got that role.
I love what you said, right? One thing I have appreciated when, like, let's say we hire someone, is one is I love when that is listening and observing and taking down notes and then coming and saying, okay, hey, I have a bunch of questions. Can you help answer them? And so usually what I do is I see what I can answer, and then I point them to other people so that they go and be able to get those answers. I like when they ask questions. So that new guy card or new person card is so important because that shows you're genuinely interested and you just want to absorb and learn, right? So asking questions is great. So yeah, what else?
I would also add, I mean, I think we kind of indirectly kind of covered what I'm about to say as well. Like, kind of figure out like who are your go-to people, right? On these various aspects. Like, hey, like if I have like this type of like help, who do I go to? Like, kind of narrow that list down. Like, kind of start kind of. I know that we are going to cover this like in our next segment too. Kind of have like your cheat sheet of people like who you go to kind of like get ideas, get help, bounce ideas, kind of a thing.
Yuresh, perfect segue because that's our next area, right? Building relationships. I just want to also say to our listeners that there is a very famous book by Michael Watkins called The First 90 Days. We are necessarily not going to talk about what's in the book. It's a great book, and I recommend everyone to read that. We are talking what has worked for us and how we would break it down. And I think there's a lot of overlap with that book too, just in case someone writes a comment saying, hey, what's going on? All right, back to relationships. So let's expand on what you said, Yuresh. Yeah, building those go-to people. How would you go about doing that?
Yeah, like so. I think like Roshan, like you brought this up earlier when you're talking about like the listening part, right? Like so, you're essentially like adapting to like this new environment, right? So while doing that, like I think while you kind of figure out like how do I fit into this, one other thing like you should continue to do is like how can I help? How can I make an impact, right? And that building relationships would go like a long way into achieving that, because in most cases like you are not going to achieve whatever you want to or like you should achieve on your own. I mean, in certain cases it might be, but like it is always like in a team environment, right? So team working in a team means like building those relationships. So I would kind of look at it from that point of view as well. How can I make an impact? Here are like some of the burning issues. We can talk about like some of the examples towards like the later in this recording, but I would definitely kind of look at it from that, like while building relationships.
It's not just asking questions, but also asking, how can I help? But don't show me, but tell me how to find my answers myself. I think that's very important. And also building relationship, I think naturally we wanted to impress our boss, right? The managing hiring manager. That should always be there in the first 30 days to make sure that they didn't make a mistake, but start to build personal brand by sending side signals, also all positives, and building who you are, because the initial 90 days it's going to stick whatever you do. Most importantly, trust part, right? They should be able to trust that if you say something you will definitely commit to it and complete it. And also, maybe to Yuresh's point, find the buddy, right, in the organization, someone whom you can open up and be vulnerable with, initially saying, I have no idea how to do this. Can you talk about it? And also understand if there's any history, like bad blood in the organization. If you're new,
Right.
try to stay away from it. Those are like the hidden knowledge in a new setting.
You brought up a couple of good points there, Shan, right? Which I would like to double click on. One is building that relationship or trust with your manager. And then also there are techniques and things that we can talk about. And also then with your peers and your teammates, right? With the manager, just to share what has worked for a new role or a reorg. Sometimes you're in a new domain or a new job, is to work with your manager and set clear expectations, set up some goals, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. This is how I'm going to progress, right? Maybe have a way to track that, figure out some sort of metric to show that, okay, hey, you're actually making progress. It's not like a feel thing, right? So your manager feels, okay, this guy is data driven and we're technology people, right? So uh, i can I'm confident that this person is doing what they're doing, we're supposed to do. And then as you learn more, as you spend your time over the 30, 60, 90 days, priorities change. So have that feedback loop constantly and make sure that you're all working on the right priorities, even in those early time period, because that sets you up for the rest of your journey in this company, right?
I want to just add one thing. I think that manager part also kind of relates back to gaining early wins. Because think about it, like when you join a new organization, you bring a fresh perspective, and you might in fact be in a advantageous position to solve some of the long running pain points that has been overlooked by others. So those are like quick wins that you can accomplish and build that credibility with the manager.
Good point. How about teammates? How do you start building a good rapport with your teammates and dependent teams and whatnot?
I think, I mean, other than like just like your basic relationship building stuff, like one thing is to kind of offer like a lending hand, right?
Mm,
Hey, like let's share like some of the things that you're trying to solve. Like, you are like an additional resource at that point, right? Like you may not even have like, I don't know, like an assignment that takes up like 100% of your time, because you're still like learning, you're doing like bunch of trainings, you're doing bunch of compliance stuff, which takes like a whole month. So like it is kind of time to offer like a lending hand, and in turn like build relationships.
And to add to that, Yuresh, it might sound like a very cunning thing to do, but I do this all the time. I wanted to open up about myself. I wanted to understand my peers' personalities and their stories. So I kind of profile them in my mind. So I can basically think about whom I can have a healthy relationship, whom I should probably have a screen, those kind of things, probably not said out loud in business, but naturally, at least I do it. I find it very useful, and being very vulnerable, right? You can talk about what you're good at and what you're not good at, but you need to pick the right people to talk to about.
that's a really good point, Sean. I think we all do it sometimes unconsciously. So what I've learned is, so first, like Yuresh mentioned, sometimes you're just silently observing. You're in a meeting, you're watching how the team dynamic is evolving, right? And you will learn, and hopefully your manager will guide you as these are the people, these are your partners, these are the people who will help you be succeed. So you start your conversations, your one-on-ones with those people, build that relationship, open up, talk about your journey. Everyone likes to talk about their journey, right? So they'll probably share their journey as well and start building that relationship. Then you work your way down to the other layers where you start building some trust and respect, where they are excited to work with you because you bring a different experience to the table, right? And so, yeah, I think that is very, very important what you said, Sean. I like that.
Yeah, and one more thing to add there is that there are influencers in the organization. We need to identify who are like hard to get through, right? And then maybe put extra attention to get closer and be very genuinely interested about knowing them, because you never know when you will need them as you go through the 90 days.
There is a tool that I use, when I like even engage in a new program. It's called Power Interest Stakeholder Map. It's like a 2 by 2. It's very simple to use. Like, so you basically put your stakeholders on two axes, right? On one axis, you plot your stakeholders, who have power or influence over what you do, and on the other axis you put stakeholders who are impacted by the work you do, right? So the stakeholders that are high on both ends, right, that means those are the stakeholders who can influence the outcome as well as who are impacted by your work, right? And those are the people, like, consider like this is your first 90 days. You don't have bandwidth to reach out to all the stakeholders. If you want to prioritize, those are the stakeholders that you want to build a relationship with first. They are the one who's going to make you successful or otherwise at the end.
I love
It's
that,
not,
Asanka. Thank you for
yeah,
sharing. That's
that's
a
a very
good
good one.
framework. If you guys like content like this, don't forget to hit subscribe. Just to add one more demographic, I love that you said stakeholders. I'd also add customers, right? Who's using your product? Try and understand, because you come with a fresh perspective now. right? Try and understand what their experience is like. Do they love it? Do they hate it? What are their pain points? What can we do better, right? And start building that relationship with them as well, so you can bring it back to the team, because you're still the new guy. You have the new card, right? So you can bring this feedback back to them. Shall we talk a little bit about how we can secure some early wins and build that credibility that we talked about? I can go first, maybe. So something I have done when I was an architect, right, is if I'm joining a new team, a new domain, a new company, as I start learning the landscape, I start drawing a picture. This is my view of the world. These are the components that make this up. This is the dependencies. This is who it's affecting, and then use that as a tool to fill in the blanks, right? Without starting or looking for pages. And sometimes very often, the team has something, but it's outdated. And they're like, oh, this is great. Let's add on to this. And then this becomes the newest and greatest architectural view. So that's already like bringing people along with you and building some credibility that you started this.
Yeah, that's something I do also. We have access to Miro or Mural, like there are different, canvas tools. I create a mind map.
Mm.
Like to my first point, like you have this fuzzy front end at the beginning, like things are not clear to you. So I just put, what I hear, like thematic stuff, and then I try to make a relationship out of it. And then something emerges to you because you bring your fresh perspective to it, and then you can discuss those with your manager. You can suggest that, you can use your new card to suggest even something that doesn't make sense, right? So use that opportunity, and some of those will stick and might work.
Right. I mean, like don't be afraid to bring in like disrupt into the picture, right? Because to like what we're saying is like kind of that fresh perspective matters. Like so they might be, or like this new team or like the new company or whatever the setting might be, they're probably used to like ways of like the way they have always done things. You're bringing like a fresh perspective. It might be like totally different to what they're used to, but like you never know, like if you present it the right way, there like might be opportunity there, like to kind of change ways and make things better. So don't be afraid to be bold.
I like that saying.
And in terms of quick wins, there are some easy ones, right? Things like being punctual to show that you're committed, and especially being available when somebody is looking for you. Because in the first 90 days, if the person is not to be found in like 30 minutes or an hour, that's not a good sign. And also, what I did in my first 30 days with my boss was I was constantly bombarding my boss with emails saying, I learned this today. I spoke to this person. Is there anybody else I should talk to, do you think? And then we need to keep that interaction to show the manager that this person is very eager to learn.
Yeah, I mean, like I would actually extend it beyond that, right? Like so don't be shy to announce the wins, right?
Mm.
um like if you have made an impact, make it known, because that'll go a long way, because this goes hand in hand with like relationship building. Like this is the time for you to like this is the opportunity for you to make sure that others know like who you are, what you do, what you bring to the picture. Like so be humble about it, but don't hide away with your wins.
Just to add to that, also be proactive, right? Sometimes don't wait for someone else to like schedule knowledge transfers or things like that. Go there with the attitude like, I'm hungry to learn, I want to know what's going on, and be proactive. Set up meetings, set up reviews, take action, creating a positive impact around you. What else? I liked, Sean, those unwritten rules, like just being on time, being available, right? Asking questions, documenting stuff, finding gaps, and then pick up stuff. Like you said, be helpful. So if there are things that you feel that it's that you can pick up, even if it's you don't know the domain yet, pick it up, and someone will help you along it, right? That's a quick, easy win.
You can also consider like writing down like a journal, because during the first 90 days you are drinking from a fire hose. A lot of things just gonna go right past you. Even some of the quick wins that you may have delivered, like you just might forget. So it's good to write them down like in a structured way. Think about like even like do a assessment, like do a your strength and weaknesses relative to the new job. When you it's something new, the organization has new challenges. So how do you rank, where do you stand? So do a self assessment, an ongoing self assessment. That will help.
Asanka, what you just said made me think of something else too. Maybe because you're still new, you can do like a competitive analysis of the product itself. This is what the company is doing, but this is what's happening outside. This is how other companies do it, or this is products outside, and try and do like a gap analysis because you're coming with a fresh perspective, right? You might be able to add to the prioritization list as this is what they do, so maybe we could think about this as well. That's a good opportunity there. Sometimes we miss that, isn't it? We're so focused on what's happening here.
Look at the big picture. Don't be just bogged down by your job description. That also shows you're taking initiative to think big.
Yeah, if it is a new organization, you have a trump card basically to use because you're bringing new ideas. So they automatically will listen to you if you're bringing anything new. So take advantage of it, bring ideas.
Shall we move on to some of our examples from our journeys?
I have one question though, right? So we spoke about first 90 days. Let's say you're on the 90th day, right? So what do you do on the 90th day? I think it's a good time to kind of take a pause and reflect on yourself and see, recalibrate, right? You almost should do like a retrospective and see like what have you done right, what you want to continue to do, what are the things you want to stop, right? What are the things that you want to start doing, and also take feedback. Like over the 90 days you have built relationship with your colleagues, with stakeholders. Go talk to them, get some candid feedback saying, hey, I've been here 90 days, like how am I doing? That shows that you're also authentic. You want to get better. I think you should like recalibrate and see how you want to move forward the rest of the year.
Very good point, Sanka. Seeking feedback.
Maybe I'll go first, right? It's an interesting story for me. So I had just joined this company, and I was quietly listening, observing, trying to learn, jotting stuff down in my book, questions, right? Trying to draw pictures, trying to, as people talk about stuff, trying to paint this picture of how everything comes together. And I kid you not, within like the second or third week itself, I was thinking, oh my gosh, all these people are super smart, they're amazing. I'm an imposter. Have you heard of imposter syndrome? Right? And they have all these high expectations of me, and I was afraid that I won't be able to deliver. Right? And it's a real thing that happened to me. And luckily for me, at that time, my manager, we used to have twice a week syncs, Monday and Thursday. And on the Thursday, at one of these meetings, I actually confided with him saying that, hey, everyone is so good. I am a little afraid that whether I'll be able to deliver with all these expectations on me. And so this person told me, calm down. There's a thing called imposter syndrome. I hadn't heard about it before, right? And said, hey, no one's expected to deliver like now. At your role, your impact comes after 2, 3, 4, 6 months sometimes, right? So take your time. There's no rush. We're investing in you, right? And just learn what's happening, learn the people, and then you will deliver. No worries. And that really settled me, right? And set me up actually in a really good way. I hope more people do that actually.
I also want to give an example. So in my previous organization, like I was running the technology business management office, and I hired a new person, a junior person. This was a while back when Tableau was kind of new in the market as well. So we were doing like as a technology business management office, like we were running a lot of spreadsheets, analytics, like a lot of these things on the side of the table. And this guy walked up to me and said, I want to show you something, right? He said, and then he kind of mocked this up. We didn't even have a Tableau license. He didn't even Tableau license. He kind of mocked this up in a spreadsheet, and he said, I can automate all this and publish this in a tool called Tableau. if you get me a license. I asked, how much is a license? I think it was like $1,200 or something at the time. I was like, fine, I'll get you the license. Doesn't hurt. I spoke to the CIO. He said, fine, get it done. And he did such a fantastic job, right? Because he had that fresh perspective and he understood, he brought some new skill set with him. And, within end of the year, I said, you are in charge of this, right? Because, you have the vision for it. So point is that, bring that fresh perspective. If you have something to add, like, don't hesitate, just propose that. And you don't have to ask for permission sometimes. Just do it, showcase, prototype, right? Use your
That's awesome. And also being proactive, right?
yeah,
An initiative. Yeah, it's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah. I was so impressed with him.
Thing I did in my first, I would say 30 days when I didn't know anything about the new company is basically joining deployments. And if there's any incidents going on, I wanted to be part of that. It's a win-win situation. Basically, the team understands that I'm being available and I empathize with the issues that they're going through. At the same time, I get valuable information like what sort of issues we have and how are people interacting and how they're contributing. That helped me ramp up quickly.
That's a great point, Sean. Like, join mission control calls. That's the best way to learn what's happening in the organization.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah, one of the things I've done, this might come off as a bit boring. So when I first started in this new company, obviously, like I think we were talking about this earlier, that you have to learn, right? Like, so you have to dig through like various documents. You have to like look up like these resources, talk to people, and in most cases, like a lot of these are like not really organized well, right? Because they have been having like a cascading effect, like things are like kind of all over the place. Like you would have started in a very structured way, like, and before you know it, like things get like super disorganized, right? So what I did was like, while I already had to like kind of look for these and like kind of go through these various types of documents, right? Like architecture documents, like requirements documents, client engagement documents. So I started like, as I was going through this, I realized that this is not structured. So I started creating like a structured kind of like reorganizing like these resources that's already available and restructuring it, because I was already going through it. It's not like I had to specifically do it for the sake of like organizing it, right? So that, I mean, that brought in like one thing, like it immensely helped existing teams and also like anyone who's joining new. That shows initiative, right? That shows that like you are like an organized person, like you have like a proactive kind of like a mindset. So it kind of checked like a lot of boxes while doing it. I know that it is not for everyone. Like those, like you guys know this, like I'm kind of OCD when it comes to these kinds of things. So I enjoyed doing it while contributing to it. But yeah, that was kind of like a that was appreciated like all around the time.
That's a win, right?
Mhm.
You
Yeah,
organize the team's information in a much better manner. So that's awesome.
Yuresh has OCD when it's come to other things as well.
that's a different episode.
Definitely.
That, that was a lot of fun. That was a fun conversation. Shall we wrap it up there?
Right. All right. So, really, I also learned a lot today from this call, and I'm definitely going to use this at my workplace. So, we started the conversations by, talking about the importance of the first 90 days. We spoke about, you have a limited time period and how you want to make that first good impression. And that reminds me, it's a human thing. Like, you remember the first impression, right? You can always say, I remember the first day you came to office. I remember the first meeting you came, right? You don't remember in between, but you remember the first day. So that first impression is really important. The first 90 days are really important. And then we talk about, how to learn the new landscape. Roshan, you spoke about how you can approach it with a more structured, like product, process, people, technology. I think those are the categories you mentioned. And then we spoke about, how do you build better relationship? How do you build credibility, rapport with your stakeholders? We spoke about some tools. And then, we spoke about how do you, score some early wins to make your mark in the new organization. And then finally, we all, shared, our experiences from our journeys.
Thank you, everyone. See you in the next one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.